All right, and we are back for a special 3 o'clock show. On this show, we're going to be helping empower you with the technology that you need in order to find success building business. What do you think about that, Anthony Melchiori?
I think that's great, man. I think American flag sticking on my head is the best thing that can happen. Let's start the show, baby.
You stole my joke. All right. And welcome to a special bonus episode. I got to be honest with you, Anthony. I'm still recovering from that incredible conversation we had with the one and only Horst Schulze at the 12 o'clock hour. Oh, we can't hear you. I cannot hear you now. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. This is going, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. Finally, we have it the way I want. We got rid of Anthony Melchiori. So no more having to deal with that guy over here. No, from now on, it's going to be all Glenn, all day, all night, making it happen for you. All right, maybe it's not going to be, but let's go ahead and bring in our... All right. Let's see. Anthony, back? Uh-oh. Monica, welcome to the show. Can we hear you?
Thank you. Hopefully you can.
I can hear you. Great. And Mark, can we hear you?
I think so. I can hear everybody else fine.
Too. All right, so let me do a little official hello to everybody. I'd like to welcome Monica Nerger. She's the global CIO with Mandarin Oriental, and Mr. Mark Haley. He's a partner with Prism Hospitality Consulting. We're going to talk a little bit about hotel marketing, but first, before we get into that, Anthony, can we hear you now? Nope, we can't hear you. Nope, this is great. This makes for great television. I love it. Speaking about someone else who could make for great television, boom, we got Mr. Alberto Santana here from Hot Sauce. Alberto, how are you? Welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, Glenn. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, actually. Thank you.
I got to be honest. It looks like you scared Anthony away. You're very intimidating, Alberto. He's like, yeah, I was about to say, he can't handle another bald man looking so good. So what are you going to do? All right. So I think the best place for us to start, and as soon as Anthony gets back here, we'll make sure that he gets right into the show. But Monica, let me start with you, please. What's the situation that you're feeling right now in Asia? Things are starting to open up. Here in the United States, we've kind of had enough of it. We've decided we're going to be opening up as well. When it comes to a global hotel brand, how are you seeing the return to being able to market to your guests and get people to come into your building? But before you answer that question, let's see if we can hear Mr. Anthony Melchiori right now. Nope. We still can't hear him. Monica, take your answer away.
Sure. So for those of you unfamiliar with Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, we're actually based in 23 different countries. So we've seen this wave starting in Asia and moving through Europe, Middle East, and the Americas. The good news, the promising news, is that our business is slowly returning in Asia, starting with China, as one might expect, because that's where the travel restrictions were loosened first, and slowly moving forward. Still not so much in Europe, some business in the Middle East, and we have a small number of properties in the Americas that remain closed at this point in time.
Wow. So you're moving in the right direction at least, but you're thinking about getting people to come back. You're thinking about getting people to say, hey, I'm going to feel comfortable with traveling. What are you thinking about in order to get guests to pull the trigger and hit that reserve button to make a stay with you at Mandarin Oriental?
Sure. It's for every brand, it's the same. It's trust, trust, trust. And I think one thing that's a little bit different for us, as well as some of the other luxury brands, is we're highly dependent on global international travel. So our typical guest is C-level executives, celebrities, sometimes world leaders, high net worth individuals. So we've had to do a bit of a pivot to more staycation type offerings, and also really thinking through how our guest behavior might be changing. So we have some indication from Asia, but we're looking at it through personas. So there's going to be some COVID fatigue. I've just had it. I'm ready to come experience. But on the other side, where you're going to have a bit more of COVID sensitive. Maybe you've come from a market or geography that's particularly impacted.
All right, let's see if Flaghead over there can hear us, or he can hear us. Anthony, can we hear you?
I don't know.
Yes.
So what's great about this is I can hear you. You can hear me. I couldn't hear Monica, but I'm sure she said wonderful things. So I'll just listen and ask a couple of questions. But why don't you go ahead, Glenn?
All right. Thank you so much for your permission to continue. I feel blessed to have somebody like Anthony letting me continue. So, Monica, that makes a whole lot of sense. You're switching gears. You're thinking about how to get people to do those staycations, which means approaching marketing very differently because you're not thinking anymore about aspirational travel. You're not thinking anymore about getting those world leaders to stay with you. You've got to pivot and pivot pretty significantly. How are you doing that in order to get people to say, hey, I may not be able to go all the way to Hong Kong, but maybe I could go to visit the Mandarin Oriental on the Upper West Side in Manhattan?
Well, I think it's important to share we're not changing our DNA. You know, we're known for our personalized bespoke service. So it's how do we deliver that in more local markets, and how do we deliver that in a way that offers guest choice, because luxury is all about choice. So what we'll be doing is collecting more preferences in advance. For example, do you or do you not want us to valet park your car? Would you like to be escorted to the room, which is something that we would normally offer the guest? Would you like us to leave luggage outside your room? Would you like us to deliver in-room dining with a simple knock on the door instead of entering the room? So these will become part of the guest preferences that we've been collecting and using to serve our guests with very custom experiences.
Excellent. Anthony, I think you feel caught up by now, correct?
Yeah, I'm 100% caught up. Your customer, your guest, is the most loyal guest in the hospitality industry. We're all looking for that kind of loyalty to that kind of brand. They are going to come back. They will probably come back a little bit slower, maybe, but they are going to come back, and they are going to be coming back strong at some point. Is this a great opportunity because you compete with several other high-level brands to really show your value over your brand's value? And I know that's another brand's value. I mean, is this a great opportunity for that? Or do you feel that people, your loyal guests, whether they're loyal to you or to another company, those kind of loyal guests are going to double down because of the trust that Horst Schulze talked about, that we all try to build that trust?
I think you're absolutely correct. We are taking this time to really look at those bespoke experiences and services and truly, in your terms, double down and make sure that our guests feel very comfortable and confident. The other thing we're seeing trending, again, this is in parts of Asia, it might not be the same in Europe or the Americas, is that there's a lot of pent-up demand. And we were able to reopen our spas, for example, in Hong Kong.
Wow,
and you might think that's the last part of our business that would be able to reopen. Mm-hmm. And the phones were literally ringing off the hook.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So, Alberto and Mark, let's get to you guys. Mark, being that you're a consultancy, what are you thinking about right now in order to help people drive business to their hotel? Is it about that personalization thing? Is it about making them feel comfortable in new ways? And if so, how do you connect with them to make sure that they understand that that hotel is going to be satisfying those requests?
Well, it's really sort of a two-tiered approach that really begins with the point that Monica brought up about trust and the trust of the customer. And it sounds like Horst Schulze also discussed trust. But it's really getting the guest to really internalize and believe and trust that we have reimagined the guest experience with sanitation and cleanliness and a touchless guest experience at the forefront. So that's sort of the high level, the strategy or the why. Then you get to the tactical level and the nuts and bolts, and how do you go about creating the touchless guest experience? What are the things that need to be reimagined about arrival, about check-in, getting the guest into the elevator and up to the room? All of those seemingly insignificant pieces of the guest experience contain multiple touch points that can they be eliminated or reduced? And if you do eliminate them, what happens to the guest experience?
Right. And I think that's the point that we need to drive home. How can we create that right experience? But how can we do that through our marketing, Alberto? How can we clearly communicate to the guests that when you show up at our hotel, you are going to feel comfortable?
Yeah, that's a great question, Glenn. First of all, again, I want to thank you for being here. It's really a pleasure. It's great to see Monica, Mark as well, Anthony, yourself also. Amadeus Hospitality is a global company. We are a travel tech. We're in the travel tech business, and I have the privilege of sitting on the side of hospitality, helping operations. The other part of me that outside of what I do for a living is just travel. I do really love travel. I travel 120 to 130 nights a year. And that level of trust that I've heard now from Monica and from Mark and from you as well. How do we get people to come back in? I say we jump on the bandwagon and start marketing that. I mean, one of the things we're talking about as an organization right now is the fact that there's this transition where we're saying, well, how do we get Gen Y to visit? How do we get Gen X to visit? And really, as an organization, we've been thinking lately about, well, maybe there's Generation Clean, right? We're looking for a really clean, a really high quality place to be. And I believe that maybe it's a good idea for the hotels to start even marketing it. I think I heard one of your guests in a podcast last week talking about this as well, where, hey, why not talk about some of the things you're doing? Why not show the travelers some of the things you're doing as well in terms of keeping that high level of quality up? Because I think as a business traveler, on a business side of my life, sometimes I don't get to pick the place I'm going to as much as I do on the personal side. But certainly on the personal side, I have that eye, right? I have that hospitality eye. We notice things that other people don't notice. We notice when that light bulb's out. We notice when that filter's dirty. And we'll notice a corner maybe that wasn't clean the way we really wanted it to be clean. And these are the things that we know our guests want to hear. They want to see. They want to see it from peers, and they want to hear it from us to really create that generation clean, if you would.
Right. I like that attitude of generation clean. And by the way, I think Anthony is having more problems. So he is threatening to ask questions from the sideline here. Great show. I'm going to ask my questions from here.
We're seeing that.
Finally, I can filter out the questions from Anthony Melchiori. This might go down in the greatest show in history for me. All right. So we've established that you need to clearly make that messaging to the guests. I've been on some consulting jobs with people, and I'm very positively putting the emphasis down that you must do that. But how would you suggest that you clearly communicate to the guests in your sales process that is what that they can expect, that you're there for their needs? What are the words that you could use, the language you could use? What kind of advertising you're thinking about when it comes to email marketing or social media marketing, whatever. Monica, how are you changing your approach to actually advertising properties?
So Mandarin Oriental launched the We Care program, and the We Care program touches the guest at different elements of that booking, pre-booking, even in the search. So through our website, you'll see the We Care program. When you arrive at property, we will have a We Care kit for you because in some jurisdictions, it's mandatory to wear a mask, but we're not assuming that all guests will arrive with one. So that's just one of the many things that will come into this new amenity, we'll call it, and just continually reinforcing the message. I think it is important to say, as an industry, we are already very regulated and guided by fire, life, health, safety, and security. So our brands, sanitization is a critical part. Now we're just emphasizing or amplifying perhaps what we do.
Right. That makes sense to me. So, Mark, what do you think? Is Monica making sense to you? What else would you add in order, say, if you want people to come this weekend to your hotel, what might be the best way to get them to come to your hotel this weekend?
I dare him to say Monica made no sense. I dare him.
No, I was just going to say that I was thinking that I'd love to get a very elegant black silk face mask with the Mandarin Oriental fan logo screened all over it, Monica.
We save those for our colleagues, so that it's our colleague.
They're actually fan shaped, the mask. So.
Yeah. No, seriously, I think what we need to do there is a show and tell strategy. So we need to develop a brand identity like the Mandarin Oriental We Care's a product, but you need to give some life to your cleanliness strategy. But equally as important as telling the guest about it is we have to show them. It has to be visible to the guest throughout their stay and in whatever kind of advertising the brand might be able to do. thing there is I'm telling hotels, have the guest service agent disinfect the key card right in front of the guest. Hold it up, wipe it with the disinfecting wipe, and then they encode it and put it in the key packet. That kind of show and tell thing. You've probably heard about the $125,000 UVC robots.
No, I haven't heard about that. But one of the common themes on this show is making a visual production out of it. The cleaning that used to be hidden should be really visible right now. Let's talk about robots, man. Let's hear this.
Well, imagine a Roomba with a pedestal on it, and at the top of the pedestal is an elongated, rotating UVC, ultraviolet C-band light, and that is known to kill viruses and bacteria by disrupting the DNA. So the Roomba goes into a room, you energize it from outside the room because it will disrupt your DNA also. And the robot wanders around the room on a random walk, much like a Roomba does, vacuuming your floor, sterilizing everything that the light can contact. And I'm told that these machines run $125,000, but does it maybe make sense for that to be something that's very visible to the guest as a housekeeper is marching it down the hall to the next room?
I stole a R2D2 robot from Galaxy's Edge and just put it in the room. Would that work? Okay, I'm gonna say that does not work. Monica, give us something serious because I can't say anything serious.
No, this is the type of technology that's already used in hospitals, and I think we're all looking to those facilities to help model what we're going to do for our guests. And that's certainly one of the technologies that's possible. Can we as an industry afford to invest in them? They're also rentable. I know one of the questions you'll probably ask is, how long will this go on in terms of changing consumer or guest behavior? And we can talk about that if you like.
We do. I do want to talk about changing guest behavior, but I do want to get to some of these questions. Anthony, do you want to ask a question before we get to some of the audience questions?
Yeah, one of the things I love what Larry Corman said of Corman Properties, of AKA.
And that was on our 12 o'clock show. Be sure to check that out if you didn't watch it live.
Like, he's looking at things differently. Instead of giving people a mask, he's giving people goggles to show that I want you to see and feel the experience. I don't want you to worry about covering your mouth and your nose in our hotels. When you come in our hotel, you should cover your mouth. But when you come in here, we're going to be spotless. We're going to be clean. And we're going to make sure everybody's social distance, so you don't need to do that. Again, whether that's right or wrong, I just love the fact that he's looking at it with that much confidence and from that perspective. So I just thought I'd make that statement. I love the robot idea. And listen, at this point, it's $125,000, but it's going to save people a lot of money in the long run because, as Horst Schulze said, and I was really surprised. I was a little surprised that he said this. He said, the number one priority is hygiene, period, end of story, next question. And I think that coming from a legend like him, that's it, done.
Was there a question? Was there a question in there?
What question we have there, Glenn, my friend?
All right. Let me just bring it up. I got to get a touchscreen computer for my my studio here. All right. Guest reviews as a new buying tool. I would assume that reviews are going to be the new peace of mind. That's interesting. Alberto, reviews have always been important, but do you foresee them maybe becoming of even more heightened importance going forward as people are trying to associate, cleanliness with their comfort and safety going forward?
It's an interesting question. I think that guest reviews in general, and I think the industry standard is about 12% take rate on guest reviews, 12 to let's call it 15 even. I think you're missing out on a whole aspect of your guests when you only have 15% responding to you. And those 15%, good, thank you. Sometimes it's either going to be a really good review or a really bad review. So what about the rest of that? What about the rest of that hotel stay? What about the other 85% of the people that are there? Again, assuming that we can allow that many people into our rooms right now, into our hotels. I believe that the visibility is going to be key. And to touch on what Anthony was just touching on right now as well, I think also that this needs to be automated in a particular way. I think we're going to start seeing where, hey, if I'm Joe and I'm supposed to be cleaning somewhere, I think it's going to be important for me to be notified to make sure I wipe down those areas at particular times. I think it's going to be important for me to be able to check that work. I mean, it's one thing to have a hand sanitizer station. It's a whole other thing to see it and it's empty. So you're going to want to make sure that you're filled up. So I believe that what we're going to see here is the use of technology, if you would, to say, hey, go do this at this particular time and let me help you. Let me enable you to be visible on timely moments, so that to make sure that we're showing that to our guests. Not only to our guests, though, but I think also it's also key for our staff, because our staff wants to be on top of things, right? I mean, look, I'm a big fan of housekeepers. I love them. I love when they reorganize my room, especially because I'm a little bit messy when I travel. The fact that if anything I can do for them, anything that we can do from a tech standpoint to help them know what I should focus on and when and how often is going to be a key for us to be really successful in terms of bringing people back and in terms of making sure that people feel comfortable about that stay. And I hope that addresses the question, if you would.
Anthony, were you satisfied with that answer?
Just absolutely satisfied by that answer. And what is the one thing that you're being forced into from a technology standpoint that pre-COVID you really weren't thinking about?
You know, I don't know that it's so much that we're not being forced in, Anthony. I don't see anything by force. I mean, we're always trying to be market leaders. I mean, our hot sauce product alone for operations, I mean, like that's been around since 2004. I mean, Mandarin Oriental right here in New York was one of our first few properties, like a year into that, once they opened, if you would. So obviously, I'm always happy to see Monica as well, especially as a Miami person.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I believe that what we're seeing are from our partners, our hotel partners, are saying, hey, can you help me? How do I take this legislation that's out there? How do I take this new way of doing business that's out there? And how can you help me make this possible? How can you help me show that visibility? How can you help me? So I think what we're seeing is it's kind of like a comeback between the provider of the technology and the people using the tech, right? Because sometimes we see tech and we're scared of it. And I think all of us, especially all of us working from home now, I know that I've gotten a lot better at using Teams or a lot better at using WebEx, whatever the case might be. We get better at things as we have to use them. So what I'm seeing is that people are saying, well, I made these investments in these technologies. How do I do a better job with this? How can you help me improve the way I'm using it? Oh, and by the way, how can I get two systems to talk to each other? That way I know once a guest checked out, the clock is ticking, and I know how long it can be before I let somebody in there. I know how long it's been since they sanitized. Think about even the fact that even the way we have to sanitize, we have to spray, wait, and then wipe. And these are little steps sometimes that sometimes we miss in the process, and the tech can help you get there. So I don't believe it's so much that we're being forced in as much as we're being reassured that we're being able to help them as the partner that we are and what we want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, our goal here is to provide not technology for technology's sake, but to help that human connection. So if anything that we can do to help that connection and make people's jobs easier, that's what we're into. And that's what our partners are asking for us.
And one of the things that we've been talking about here, sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
No, I'm just saying, I didn't mean the word force, but I meant reinvention. What are you being, what are you having to do reinvention? But I think you answered it properly. Glenn, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think what we've really been talking about here on the show is not necessarily a reinvention, but an acceleration of the trends that we see out there in the marketplace. What we thought might take 3 to 5 years or even stuff on the distant horizon is suddenly right in our front view mirror. And we've got to focus on all of those kinds of things right now. So I got a question here. Monica and Alberto, what is the one thing you can do by utilizing a guest voice, a survey to see how people are responding with new norm standards? And if so, are you starting to see a pattern? Monica, have you seen a pattern? Are you thinking about this? What is your experience?
That's where we get back to what I'm sharing earlier, where we're much more sensitive. We've always been sensitive and aware of the feedback, but now we're looking for distinct things in the way guests are reacting to the changes that we're making in our hotels so that we can tweak those where necessary. And that's where the sensitivity level for COVID-19 really makes a difference. Do we present your key on a tray? What are we doing differently? I think there's areas in our industry that are really going to be challenged. For example, today, historically, you could just walk into the fitness center or come to the swimming pool. With the social distancing requirements, how are we going to manage that? Both through technology and through human interaction.
Wait, you're actually allowed in the fitness centers? I knew I've been doing something wrong all this time.
Depending on what country you're in. So it's a very complex set of circumstances, because you need to make a reservation. We need
Right.
to know how many people are there, and then you can imagine the complexity. We know which machine you may have used. That's an IoT device. But if you've lifted weights, now we have to sanitize all of this
Oh.
before the next guest uses it. It's complicated.
All right, it is complicated. And making matters more complicated is over the weekend, I've started to hear news stories break about maybe COVID-19 doesn't spread easily on
Yes.
surfaces, right? So the last 6 weeks on our daily show, which you can catch at 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time, we've been talking about how to deal with these surfaces. Now, all of a sudden, everything that we've been thinking is sacrosanct and true is maybe up for discussion, up for debate. My goodness, that must be extremely confusing for you. And what are you supposed to do, Monica?
So May 22, CDC issued their new statement that close proximity to humans is the highest risk area. So that's where we've placed a lot of emphasis as well, on the social distancing side. And again, technology, we're looking for technologies that don't even yet exist to help us with this. We don't have contact tracing just for our industry or just for a hotel.
Right.
We have, some of us have very large hotels. How do you manage that flow of people to make sure that there's no more than 2 people on the lift? We're looking to our partners, Alberto and others, to help us with these technologies.
And Alberto, I definitely want to hear from you. But just before we do that, somebody actually said that about 2 people in the lift. I stayed at the Hilton Cocoa Beach this weekend. They did a great job with sanitation. Changed the key card to wristbands, and only allowed 2 people per elevator. Hand sanitizing stations everywhere. I think that's really important for now. Alberto, how are you making sense of all this?
Let me tell you something. First of all, I love the fact that people are traveling. I know we need to be careful, and I know we want to make sure we're careful. But I mean, travel is one of the lifebloods of the world. It makes the world go round, and not traveling is like reading a page on one book, if you would. So, I'll say that the other thing that lands into that realm somewhere else that we touch on as well is meetings and events. So some of the things that some folks have been asking us is, well, how can I do room diagramming, if you would, so that I'm separating maybe the tables a little bit further, right? So if this room usually allows for X number of people, now I can allow for Y. How do I set my tables up that way? How can you help me diagram my rooms a bit different? And I'm sure Mark will have a lot to say about this as well when it comes to just beacons or knowing how many people are in a particular cluster. This is going to be another place where I think we're going to see a lot of inroads in terms of technology. Now, how do you get people away from that area? Well, that's a different story. Maybe we got to get better at moving the things we want to see to a different part of the hotel, or maybe make something else a little bit more interesting, if you would. But these are just some of the places that I think that there's obviously a lot of opportunity. And really, I'll touch on something you mentioned, Glenn, I think is interesting. I mean, we've been getting here for a long time, right? Like, if you think about it, the whole touchless, I'm a key card collector. I'm going to miss them when they're gone.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I have hundreds of these from around the world.
Me too.
So I'll be sad when they're gone, but it's been there. It's been there for a while. I think it's just a matter of, well, how good is the tech at getting me the room that I really wanted? How easy is it for me to pick the room that I actually wanted? And these are the things that we need to work together on. All the companies to work together to make sure we have those integrations in place to make those as seamless and as easy as possible.
Great, Mark.
Well, I think for a lot of hotels, the beacon kind of technology is probably going to still be a ways off, because there's plenty of other things that are going to be driving investment up front. And I think a big one that's going to be getting driven there is mobile keys. They've been out in the marketplace for quite a few years now, but very low consumer take rates. Guests try them once and then don't try them again, or they go to the front desk and they get a RFID key instead of continuing to use their phone. But I think as people start to travel again, there's going to be more and more impetus for mobile keys. That's going to be a technology that we're going to see more and more adoption of as part of this idea of reimagining the guest experience.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I'm one of those people that have not adopted the key. Monica, when you're talking about people using their phones as keys, is that something that you've been focused on up till now, and are you seeing a change in pattern of behavior if that was the case?
No, we have not. We're aware of the low adoption of this technology, and because of the very personalized nature of the way we assign
That's
rooms,
right.
it's all assigned in advance. We take you to your room. There's no, so we have fairly small hotels for the most part, so it's a different experience for us.
Yeah. So let me put out a philosophical debate then on this particular topic, because one of the things that have always bothered me about that particular technology was that I thought that it removed a critical touch point from the process, something that obviously Mandarin Oriental felt as well, that if you're not going to have the chance to have that very critical interaction with the guests, now all of a sudden, seemingly overnight, we want everybody to change and have the exact opposite approach. I mean, how can you balance giving that more of that touchless type of technology, but still making sure, Mark, that you have great, not literal hands-on, but that feeling of the hands-on attention from the hotel to the guest?
Well, a lot of things are going to change in the hotel in a lot of ways. Valet parking is going to become something that'll be limited to just the hotels like Monica's,
Right.
or ones that have something unusual about their parking circumstance where there's just no way that a guest could use it themselves. Bell services are going to be greatly reduced. Doormen aren't going to be grabbing the handle of the car door when you pull up in front of it. I think some of those roles are going to be repurposed to things like managing the elevator queuing, so that there aren't too many people going. And some people are going to be doing different things. We were talking about housekeepers earlier. I think a lot of people are going to be declining daily housekeeping service. They're only going to be there for a couple of days. Don't bother coming in my room. Thank you. So does that mean less work for housekeepers? Probably on stayovers. But the cleaning that they're going to have to do for the turnover is going to be so much deeper that the 14-room quota is gone. That's going to be an 8 or 10-room quota.
Yeah, that is absolutely for sure that is going to happen in the future. But that's an interesting point that you make, Mark, is the whole idea of maybe having someone at the elevator that will increase those moments of connectivity that you could have with your guests, and you could turn a negative situation, which is this whole virus and having to rethink everything, into something that could theoretically be more positive if you're able to really understand what the guest wants at those particular times. So Alberto, how do you see that issue?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think Monica touched on it earlier as well, which is I think you're going to see a lot of hotels try to get better at figuring out what does a guest want ahead of time. Now, obviously, all hotels aren't the same. All groups aren't the same. There's luxury versus this, that, and the other. But that being said, there's some simple things. For example, like I'll say it for myself because I got 2 small children, but a crib. I mean, just getting a crib in a room ahead of time, that definitely helps. That's definitely helpful because I don't have to wait for somebody to get there. I don't have to call down to wait for that. And the more we're aware of those things ahead of time, the more important it is for the customer as well. I know that I've had that crying or baby that's ready to go to sleep in my hands before, and I've been, please bring that crib to the room quickly. So I think that's going to be another thing we're going to be focused on. We're going to be focused on how long does it take us to deliver on things. I mean, we've been an Amazon generation for a long time as well, where when we request something, we want it right away. Not only that, just the checking in process, really, we have big groups of people, and that's why you end up with big groups going in the elevator and big groups going here and big groups going there. So I think the better that we can homogenize this, the better we can simplify some of these processes and whatnot, the more we'll just have a better natural flow of how people kind of just move around.
Yeah, I agree with you. The notable exception being select service hotels in places like Manhattan, where the hotel is like 35 stories tall, and they only have like 6 rooms on the thing. You need like a half an hour to get down under a good circumstance. I'm worried about those particular hotels and the challenges they have. Mark, what other opportunities do you think hoteliers have they can do right now to win the future loyalty of customers as the market seems to come back?
Well, one thing that I'm working with a couple of hotels on right now is how can they enhance the check-in experience by moving it to a web check-in that you can do on a mobile device.
Mhm.
That takes a touch point out of play, but there's a sense that that's what an awful lot of guests are in
Right.
fact looking for. And,
I would actually
it's
prefer
something
that
you
in a
can
place like
implement
Las
fairly
Vegas, Mark,
quickly.
because if you're in Las Vegas, those lines could go on and on and on,
Mhm.
and I love the idea of not having to do that anymore, just being able to roll up and getting a room. Anything else that you can immediately think of about how hotels can differentiate themselves now on a go forward basis?
Well, we haven't talked about food and beverage at all, and that's an area that's really ripe for reimagining.
So
The
can
whole idea of handing somebody menus.
Yeah, true. But the thing is, we're going to try to talk about technology today. So how could technology be utilized to change that? Because sure, we're seeing throwaway single-use paper stuff like that, but that's not
Mhm.
that technology's been around for a little while, I think, right?
Oh, there are apps out there that can do bits and pieces of the menu presentation, the guest ordering from their mobile device themselves, and even the payment piece.
All right.
So now you've taken all of that exchange of menus and guest checks and credit cards between the server and the guest off the table, and really the server is still there to deliver the food, and there's points of interaction, but they're relatively hands off, other than handling the tableware.
All right, so Alberto, I think that right there, he said the big thing of the day, BYOD technology, bring your own device. It's something we have been talking about for a long time now. And again, in that spirit of accelerated technologies, anything I think hotels could do to give people control over their stay experience through the device that they already have with them, I think is going to be a huge plus. For one, I've always waited for my Netflix to be able to just cast it to the screen, for example. That's just one thing. The door would be another. Menu ordering, which is what Mark suggested, is another idea. It's a really terrific idea. Someone over here is even saying that Encore Boston uses Alexa. Is that an option? We can get the answer from Monica in a second, but they also use it in Vegas. So what are you thinking about in terms of bring your own technology, Alberto?
I think it's interesting that Mark touched on payments. Again, there's two parts of me. There's the business traveler that needs a receipt all the time. And then there's the leisure traveler that doesn't need a receipt all the time, if you would. Sometimes doesn't even want to look at the receipt, but that's neither here nor there. I think we've seen a lot of advancements when it comes to payments. I think here in the States, it's still a little nutty. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You have a different experience depending on where you are.
Right.
I think the easier it is for people to pay, the easier it is for them to take on just services. But focus just on F&B, you think about, hey, can I just have that invoice texted to me? Can I just have it emailed to me? Do you need to give me a paper receipt? I would love to start seeing that a little bit more streamlined. So I always got that experience where, especially if I frequent a place where it just gets emailed to me or texted to me or what have you, whatever I choose, which I think is key. I think the other thing when it comes to F&B that I think is interesting, and I hate to keep dwelling on this, but I never could stand. I'm a little bit of a hotel guy, and I'm a traveler, so I'm always noticing little things. When somebody uses the same rag to clean multiple tables, I think that's kind of gone already now. Hopefully, there's nothing more important than just seeing people. I know it's not tech, but a reminder of wiping something down is a key, because while you're sitting there, you kind of want to see that. Ordering, I think, is always going to be a little bit interesting to me personally, even though I kind of need a pair of these nowadays, like a lot of us do. I kind of like, I'm a paper person. I like to sit there. I like to hear about the specials. I kind of, again, I'm that kind of traveler. Unless I frequent a place, I don't need to look at the menu at all. I think it's interesting when it comes to that on a device. Now, I'll flip this though. What about the employees using their own device? And I'll push that one to Monica. I know there's been talk about that one for years, about the employee being able to work off their own device. And there's been some security concerns here or there. But I don't know if we still have those. I don't know if we want to move in that direction. But to me, it just makes sense that if I already have a device in my hands and it has my cooties on it, if you would, I want to keep my own device, and I want to keep using my own device as much as possible. I mean, I do it today anyways.
And I do want to say that Alberto's cooties are the best cooties.
Thank you.
So Monica, how do you see what he's saying?
Completely in agreement. We're doing that already. So we have a chat capability between our colleagues and guests. It's called Hello MO, and through that you can engage directly with with the colleagues and request your services and potentially order your food and anything else that you need. Critical to the solution is really what Mark touched on, which is payments. So, if you go to China, there's nothing you can't do in WeChat Pay, right? WeChat, you can order, you can browse, you can pay, and we need to bring that technology to the Western world in a way that's usable in our industry.
Yeah, I almost kind of see like the precursor to what we're talking about right now is like Disney Magic Bands. When you show up at the hotel and they give you the wristband at Walt Disney World, and it's not just your room key, but it allows you to go on the rides at the appointed times that you have schedules. It has your restaurant reservations. You can buy stuff at the gift shop. Just like everything is just like boop, 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 completely taking away the need for touch. Sure, they did it for the sense of convenience, so to get people to spend money. It's because they, you don't know how much you're going to be spending there consciously. But again, I think that's a great idea. Anything we could do that's touchless, that gets people to spend money quicker, I think it is going to be really successful in the future. But most important question we may have ever gotten on this show: is this the end of waffle makers? It's my number one request pre-COVID. Mark, where do you stand on waffle makers? Because I gotta be honest with you, with Daniel here, I freaking love the waffle makers when I'm at a hotel. And I'm sorry, pancake machines, you're just not the same.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but self-service food and beverages, rest in peace.
Well, let's hold a moment of silence for the.
You're gonna miss making those Mickey pancakes at some of these places. I can tell you that.
Well, on better, at least the omelet guy still has a chance, and I just love the skill to make those omelets, especially when they do that flip and they get it right. I'm always really impressed with that. All right, so
I think the omelet guy's going to be with us for a long time.
Yeah. All right. So, again, to what you were saying, Monica, chatting is on the rise. Most guests prefer texting for requests. I completely agree with that. And I see that also more as a generational type of an issue. It's one of those things where the younger folks, those millennials that are in their 30s and their early 40s at this point, are the ones that really embrace that technology first. They're the ones out there. And then us older Gen Xers and the baby boomers kind of caught on in the end. So I think with all technology, you got to look at one group maybe as a precursor for what's going to be happening. So I think that leads me into my next question for any one of you that want to take this. Generation Z is really coming into market now. This might be better for Alberto or Mark, unless Monica, you got a lot of rich Generation Z peoples coming with you. But these kids are in college right now. They are the first ultimately true generation of digital natives. Digital natives are, of course, people that were born in the post-internet era, where us Generation X people are digital immigrants, where we had to learn to use all that technology. In a lot of cases, millennials are kind of bridging the gap between there. So when it comes to Generation Z, when it comes to the fact that they have an inherent different outlook and approach to technology, where do you see the opportunity for leveraging technology to create future trends in the hospitality industry? Mark, you want to try that one first, and then we'll go to Alberto?
Well, my perspective on that is shaped by my kids, where I've got a 22-year-old and a 25-year-old. So they're squarely in that marketplace. And I think a crucial insight there is they are as interested in the underlying technology behind the cell phones and the computers that they use all the time as our age group is interested in the underlying technology behind a number 2 pencil. It's just there. It's a tool. It's to be used. They expect it to work. They expect it to be ubiquitous. Wi-Fi has to be everywhere, free and fast. And if those expectations aren't met, they're going to look around for somebody to blame.
You talk about being shocked by technology. I know exactly what you're talking about, Mark. When I found out that lead pencils were not lead, they were graphite. I was blown away by that technology. Alberto, Generation Z technology, does that mean we're all going to have to start making TikTok videos real soon to get people in our hotels? What's the deal?
Well, I haven't been working on those dances yet, but I am aware of them. I'll say this. I think it's interesting. I'll never forget when I got my dad's first text message. I was a little bit surprised, too, because I was back in the BBB, got to find my letter days on his flip phone. It's interesting. There's 2 facets to this. First of all, I think people want to text because of the convenience and because we're all used to multitasking at this point. Like right now, if I was getting hungry and I was sitting in a hotel room, think about it. I can just text already. Hey, bring me that club sandwich, and great, I get that going. I think the flip side of this is making sure that we fulfill that request on the other end. And that's the place where we need to make sure that we're doing that. So it's not just the communication going through, it's the fulfillment of that communication. Because again, it's one thing for me to request something, it's a whole other thing for it to get there on a timely basis. I don't want to wait 45 minutes for a club sandwich, for example. I don't want to wait 25 minutes or 30 minutes for an extra towel when I need a towel right away. That being said, I think you're going to see it's going to be more ubiquitous. I think the other part of this is going to be, what do we learn from this? What's the most common request that we're getting? Maybe we need to start adding that in more often. Sorry, I got lightning here.
Yeah, and you totally froze up for a second too. It got very dramatic. You're in Florida, right? Yeah.
Miami, Florida.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's 3:45. It's time for your summer thunderstorm, so that's going to happen. Yeah. What are you going to do? All right, so starting to roll down, wrap up this conversation a little bit. I just do want to say, if you guys love waffles, check out willetwaffle.com. Willetwaffle.com. All right, enough of the waffle talk. Oh, someone likes towels. All right. So, final thoughts right now. Mark, how about some final thoughts that we could take away? Maybe something practical, maybe something inspiring, maybe something that shows how happy I am that I finally got to speak and Anthony wasn't on the show, so I got to talk. So, what do you think? Sorry, I'm feeling very silly right now.
I think the inspiring part goes back to one of the things we were talking about earlier, but you have to make this visible to the guest. It's show and tell, not just tell. And to reinforce Alberto's comments, is we really have to be much, much better at executing and fulfilling those requests. And I would say that it's up to the rest of the industry to strive to meet the standards that Mandarin Oriental sets in fulfillment and execution.
Yeah, excellent. I love the English language because I think of when you're saying execute, and I'm like, kill the request, even though it means get the request done. Why does every word have like different meanings to it? It's very, I don't know. I don't even understand how we all communicate with each other in English. Alberto, how about some final thoughts from you, sir? Maybe a weather report?
I'm back. So, yeah.
All right.
Lightning and showers is the weather report. No, but that's good. We always need water to make things grow. So that's important. I'll just say this. I mean, look, there's a lot of good technology firms out there. I mean, we've been servicing the hospitality industry for a long time. I know, again, I've been around for 20 years myself. I think it's a matter of bringing things together. And I think it's a matter of helping each other out. I think we're at a moment right here now that, I mean, we need our hotel partners need us. We all need our guests. And it's a good time to make sure that not only are we listening differently, are we hearing things differently, and are we accomplishing things differently? So I'll say this, I believe that there is a good place here, again, where technology can help us create those human connections. And again, I know Amadeus isn't alone in this. I know that we want to help our customers. We want to help them bring their guests back. We want to help them welcome their guests. And we really want to help them strive to be the most, to provide the best quality service they can provide at the most optimal way possible. I think this is a time to look at what you're doing, see how you can do it better. And, again, we just a few months ago, we were 1 million jobs short in this industry. We had a labor shortage of 1 million people, which is amazing to think of right now. Well, as we start bringing people that want to get in the game, they want to come into the sideline, let's bring them in, let's help them achieve it. Let's help them achieve it in the most efficient way possible so that, again, we can get traveling again and we can get back to what we do.
That's right. Now's a better time than any to rethink, reinvent, recreate everything they are absolutely doing. Monica, how about some good inspirational final words from you?
Well, I think it's really refreshing to see the entire industry working together, because we know we need to address some very specific problems, and there's an opportunity to maybe do a little bit more. So right now I see the hospitality industry coming together, but there's still silos. So when we think about the connected traveler, you have to think about the airport, the car rental experience, and they need to be a little more fluid instead of everyone trying to solve the problem independently. But overall, good collaboration.
Yeah, I love that. When we do it together, nothing can stop us. We have to be open to ideas, open to suggestions, realize what our blind spots are, and keep moving ahead. Don't get caught up with the way things used to be done. You got a great opportunity now to recreate how you are going to do things. Guys, thank you all so much for being here today. This was really fantastic. I enjoyed this conversation very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll say goodbye to you guys right now. See y'all later. All right, what a great day. 2 great shows today. The incredible Horst Schulze was here earlier, and then, of course, this great panel. And then, we had Larry Corman at AKA, and Chris Green was back, and we had Luca from Italy telling about the tourism thing. If you missed that show, check it out. And also, if you haven't bought in to the poker tournament, what are you thinking about? Send an email to pokerwithanthony.com. Buy-in, I think, is $300 to get in. If you want to spend $1,000, you can co-host the thing with me. Look forward to having you guys there. We'll be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're going to be focusing on what different communities are doing to drive business. The Convention and Visitors Bureaus are going to be in the spotlight. I want to thank you guys for listening and being a part of this great conversation every single day, helping us educate, empower, and entertain all of you. So remember this. You've got one life, so blaze on, and thanks for checking in.